if you want to be one of the crowd, then have an offer that's like the crowd. And if you really want to stand out and have a business that creates a different degree of success, you've actually got to be prepared to go a step further than anyone else.
This is the Business Owners Smashing It Online podcast for entrepreneurs and business owners looking for cool online tools, apps and strategies to make business easy online. My name is Nick Cree and I'm your host. Each episode features a guest expert demystifying the online universe, sharing inspirational ideas and providing tested real-world strategies to help you get the most of what's available online to grow your business today. Don't be a slave to your business, get your business working for you. Subscribe now and get some great content and ideas for you and your business today. All right, well, let's move on and let's get into the part of the evening that I'm really looking forward to, and that is with our guest speaker tonight. And his name is Paul Bottrell. So I'll give you a bit of an introduction to Paul. If we can just bring up the desktop here. Okay, hopefully you can see can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, so this is Paul. So Paul runs a global company in the financial services industry, and tonight he's going to talk about how to grow a seven-figure global business from home in t-shirts and jandals. And as you can see with that word jandals, he is in New Zealand. He is another Kiwi. And why the current crisis has been a gift. So he runs a company called Actions to Wealth and Online Trading Profits, and he works with students, teaching them financial strategies and they get results that typically you would see from university graduates. So he's got a really interesting program. It's been interesting working with him, and he's going to talk to us tonight, not so much about the financial side of things and financial strategies, but about his business and how he's sort of grown and managed his business, which is a global business. He's got people that he works with in New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, and over in England. And he's got his head office in, I think it's his head office in Singapore. That's where the operations all run from. So welcome, Paul.
Nick, thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll run this a little bit of interview style. So, I mean, this is a bit more off the cuff, as I say, because we weren't expecting this tonight. So it's good that Paul's here and is able to share with us. So tell us a wee bit about how you got started in business, and what were some of your initial goals and objectives with the business, and why you got into it.
Cheers, Nick. Look, I started in real business many years ago in New Zealand. I ran a little sports centre. I used to play there, and eventually I bought a share of it and ran it with a business partner for a while. And we sold that to travel overseas. And when we were travelling, I went to Denmark, and when we were in Denmark, I learned to trade foreign exchange. And I spent some time in London where I sort of got a bit better at trading and teaching people to trade and trading larger amounts of money. And then we went off to Singapore. And when I was in Singapore, a friend, one of my clients, asked me if he could trade with me. He was on a personal development course, and asked me if he could trade with me and whether we could teach some people in Singapore how to trade. So we traded together for a while, and eventually we taught his friends and family how to trade foreign exchange. And from there we grew Actions to Wealth, which is now perhaps the premier forex trading education business in Asia.
So that's an interesting business, isn't it? Because forex trading hasn't really got a terrific name amongst people out there, and there's some interesting operators in that field as well too. So tell us what your challenges were with that, and how you coped with all that so that you could stand out and it was a bit different.
Yeah, look, it's a really good question. One of the first things we had to work out was how we were going to compete in a market where 90% of the people are telling blatant lies to try and get business, and we didn't want to do that. And how we were going to do that. And look, it's an interesting challenge, and there's still a number of pretty interesting people in the industry. And we like everything, I think, in business. I didn't think that there was one way of dealing with it. We deal with it in a number of ways. As you know, we offer a live trading account, and we pay the losses for our traders for life, people who trade with us. So it separates us out from other traders. I mean, people who are scams don't pay the losses for their clients. I mean, the losses for many of the people who are trading gurus out there in the world, their clients would be losing at the moment, millions of dollars a month. So they can't stand in the losses. And by jumping in and agreeing from very early that we would provide live accounts for clients and we would pay the losses, we separated ourselves out a lot from the competition. To be fair, the competition didn't like it very much. And, you know, when you're working in different cultures, it's a really different thing. The opposition we have in Singapore have stood outside our building, handing out flyers, trashing us. They tried to buy my marketing company to stop them promoting me. They even threatened our families. They've done some really, they've got people with masks on YouTube trashing us. You know, so they literally pay people to put bad publicity out about us. And look, I think we decided really early that instead of putting our energy into worrying about that we'd put our energy into becoming better and better at what we did. And that would slowly widen the gap between them and us, that we'd continue to get better and they'd continue to focus on us. And in all honesty, the company who we sort of replaced as the education company in Singapore for forex trading, they seem to spend more energy worrying about us than they do actually learning or teaching anyone how to trade and make any money. So that's really put a lot of distance between us and them over time. And look, it's been a challenge, and not the kind of challenge that I would have expected in Australia, New Zealand, and our cultures. And I was very lucky as part of this process, I guess, that I had a local Singaporean business partner who had experience of working in the culture and understood how to deal with it all. You know?
Wow, that's quite a challenge. I mean,
you just can't let these things, Nick. At the end of the day, these guys were scamming people out of a lot of money. You just can't let them keep doing that. You have to be prepared. And the way Roy got me to run my business, the way he got me to do education with him, was to show me videos of these guys and what they were saying. And to the point I just couldn't not do something about them. So we knew when we took them on there'd be problems. But you know, we also knew that what they were doing was genuinely bad, and that we could offer a far better option for people.
So by the sound of things, your competitors there are offering education, which is like pseudo education. So it's not really education at all, and not really sort of caring too much about whether people make money or lose money, just worried about the profits for themselves.
Yeah, I've only heard from, and you know what it's like in business. You know, if they have any clients that are making money, they're unlikely to talk to me. We only get to talk to the guys at the bottom of the cliff who have lost, you know, life savings, six-figure sums, massive amounts of money, trading systems that don't work, and that any professional trader will tell you don't work. And you know, these people are paying, I guess they're paying a bit less now, but they were paying a lot of money for that stuff. So yeah, I think they've got no regard for it at all. And yeah.
So I'm interested in how you, first of all, why you're in an industry there that has got such a bad name. You know, why would you enter it in the first place? And then how do you cope with sort of, you know, all of the stuff where you've got people bagging you out online? I mean, it's bad enough if someone gets on social media and trolls you and bags you out. So, you know, I've had a few of those sort of things, and you get a hard skin to it, and you sort of harden up and just sort of think, okay, well, it's not personal, it's all them. But, you know, if there's any truth to it, we'll deal with it. But you know, it's not really us. How did you deal with that in business as you're a new business and growing it?
Look, when the stuff was particularly ugly, there were some times in the middle of it where I was a bit concerned that it was going to get just a bit too crazy. Again, I think one of the keys is that I had a local guy, Roy Tay, working with me, great man, and he was able to put it in perspective and go, well, you know, this is just part of the way some of the stuff works in the world over here, and you've just got to, you know, don't worry about it too much, it won't happen, you know. And again, I think we were really good at going, okay, well, the reason they're doing this is because they want to go back to scamming people, and we clearly want to stand in the pathway between that, you know, if we quit here, they win, and the cost to people of them winning is massive, absolutely massive. You know?
Right. So one of the strategies you had there was your risk reversal strategy, and you know, we hear about that in online marketing and in business, you know, to help people to buy. But you've got quite a unique risk reversal strategy. Tell us how you came up with that and what sort of impact that's had.
Oh, there we go, I'm back. So we do a trading program where, you know, as an example, we've got the standard kind of selling program. You come and do a session with us, and from there you go on to an event. And from the event, there's a mentorship program. And at each level, if you pay $500 to join us, we give you a trading account with $500 value. You trade that, and if you lose, we fill it up again for you. And if you win, we split the money with you. And really, that was the last piece of the puzzle for me. When we were doing this, the truth is, we're different from a lot of the operators. I run a licensed fund in Singapore. We have people who work with us who trade for $1 trillion funds in the US. We're not the cowboys down the road. So it sort of meant that we always knew that we were going to be. The question was, why do we do it? We did it to differentiate ourselves from the opposition. And I think as well that when you're in business, if you've got to make some fundamental decisions, I think. And if you want to be one of the crowd, then have an offer that's like the crowd. And if you really want to stand out and have a business that creates a different degree of success, you've actually got to be prepared to go a step further than anyone else. And you've got to go, look, no one else will take this risk because they're not as good as we are. So we can take this risk. And don't get me wrong, we can, in the background, we do hedge this stuff. We don't just take on all the loss of traders. We do hedge away some of that stuff. But we knew that our stuff was good enough that we were never going to get into massive trouble doing it. People who trade the way that we trade were never going to get in a lot of trouble from doing it. But that, again, that people who were scamming couldn't take the risk. They couldn't stand in that space at all. So it was actually a really easy decision. And so why we did it was because Roy asked me for quite a long time to do trading education in Singapore. And I refused. And my reason for refusing was that I felt that trading is a very corrosive thing. And it has a bad name because it is a very corrosive thing. Even people who do it really well and are taught it really well, greed can dominate them. And even if you do an amazing job of teaching somebody, greed can consume them and they can make mistakes and they can lose a lot of money. And I told Roy that I wasn't prepared to teach people knowing that even if we did a great job and even if we taught the stuff perfectly, that 2 years down the track, they could fall to pieces and lose their life savings. That it was a risk that I couldn't live with, And this was our way of making it so that we could do this in good conscience, knowing that people weren't going to destroy their lives.
So that's a pretty bold move in the sense that, if someone pays you $500, you're effectively giving them that $500 back to go and follow your program.
Yeah, look, and I think that there is a slight difference, and we explained this a bit in the program, that the money behind these accounts sits in what's called an omnibus account. So I don't put $500 into every account. I put a large amount of money into an account in the middle, and that feeds all the accounts. So I don't actually have to front up every individual account with the exact amount. I've got to cover on behalf of the broker the risk and the margin.
Right. So in terms of actually, the first thing I would like to just ask is, for people that are here on the call, if you think about a risk reversal like that your competitors are just not prepared to offer or can't offer, what sort of risk reversal could you give in your business that would just stand you out streets ahead of everybody else? Like this one here. If they pay you $500, they've effectively got $500 to play. In fact, yours is not just that, is it? I mean, if they pay you $3,000, they get a $3,000 fund. So it's by it's
Look,
it is substantial.
Only in the last couple of years changed it. I mean, so nowadays the highest they can get from us as an initial trader from us is $25,000. But for a long time, we had it every time they made 10%, we'd lift their accounts up. So we've got a bunch of people trading six-figure accounts of our money. And it just got to the point where the risk on that stuff just became too high for us. We didn't really want to sit in risk on $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 accounts. So we changed the system back to make it a little bit safer for us. But it still does the same. At sale point, it still does the same thing. And all that happens now is if you get to a $25,000 account and you make some money, with discretion, I can offer you a bigger account, but you can't have a contract saying you get one. So it's back in my hands choosing where I give that extra risk.
Mm-hmm. So so interesting proposition, and it's one that gets me to think, what could I do in my business to offer something like that? That's like, it's almost like a no-brainer, you're parting with money, but you're getting it back again. So what could you do in your business that would be so different to your competitors? In fact, it's counter to your competitors, because that's really counterintuitive, isn't it?
Are you asking me or them?
No, I'm asking them.
Yeah, interesting. Look, guys, I really encourage you. I think part of this discussion, and on really short notice getting ready for this, and if you have any questions, we can help you at all, just let us know. I'd love to answer any questions, help anything. But I think one of the fundamental questions you need to ask yourself is, what your business is. Is it a hobby where you're trying to make a salary, or is it a business where you're trying to grow something a lot bigger? And I think if you really want to make it a lot bigger, you've got to be prepared to have a look at your USP and step outside the box that everybody else is in. I'd love to hear what you guys could do that is unique and different.
Yeah, so anyone, so look, feel free to jump in and ask a question or throw something in chat, because I think this is a good opportunity to look at some of these things for for your own business, and even to ask some questions too about to get a perspective as well. So in terms of that, for sales, how has it affected your sales, and how does it affect your sales compared to others in your industry?
Yeah, look, we run along the average. If you're doing what we're doing, which is if on a physical term, and I'm going to use the industry language. We don't use this language inside our own organisation, but we have a preview. We go to an event and we sell to a mentorship program. Industry-wide, average conversion for most companies is 6 to 9%. We run at 25 to 33.
Wow. And would you attribute that solely to that guarantee or to other factors too?
Look, I think that what we've done over the period of time as well, there's always, for me, there's always multiple reasons for all of these things. People always say to me, why did I do something? It amazes me when guys on webinars tell me they did something for one reason. I've never done anything for one reason in my entire life. There's always a million things going on, and you sort of weighing it all up. So here's your camera back, mate.
I've got it back, yes.
So look, again, the average person in my industry who's selling a trading course, he's a guy that sits at home, with a $400 trading account, and probably has never made money in his life, and he's had 3 good weeks, and he puts that up as a record. And I've got a guy that trades for $1 trillion fund out of Hong Kong. I've got a guy that runs a professional trading team in New Zealand that puts $1 billion a month through their trading desk. In fact, inside my company, every single person who is involved with us trades. I don't have one staff member that doesn't, and it's not compulsory. It's not something we've made them do. But I think we convert because in our culture, there's a real belief in our product and a real belief in the genuine nature of our people. That when it comes time for people to sign up, if I put them one-to-one with one of my staff will honestly endorse us every time. And I think that makes a real difference. So the money back guarantee helps with the doubters, but you've still got to sell them. And I think that the quality of the product sells them.
And the fact that your team are in there and are living, walking examples and really believe in it and they're not just there to get their salary or wage at the end of the week. There's a real sort of what would you call it? Well, they're living it. It's like they're walking proof.
Yeah, we're really lucky. We're in a really unique position. We're doing an event this weekend, and on that event there'll be some people who will do some consulting for us, one-to-one consulting. And the majority of the people who are doing one-to-one consulting are full-time traders and investors, and there's no possibility they could make enough money on a weekend selling from us to impact their lifestyle in any way, shape or form. That they make so much money from trading and investing that this is something they do really. We pay them because it's the professional thing to do, but they do this as a favour more than anything else.
So, and it's a good testament to, I guess, to your system and to what they've learned from you as well.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things, Nick. People always say that, and it's a very generous and nice thing to say. And I'm still the best trading coach in our organisation. But what we have done is create a culture where, as an example, and guys, if we're talking about stuff that's of no interest, let us know, because we'll talk about some stuff that's of his interest. But one of the things I do every year is we take our platinum mentorship students and my trading team, we go away for a week and we trade together. And there's a huge emphasis at that event on us as a team. For instance, we don't sit in one area and the clients sit in another. We sit with them, we go to dinner, they sit between us. We're a very inclusive organisation. But at that week where we trade together, our guys learn more from trading with each other than they could learn from any other source on the planet. When you're sitting in a room with a guy who trades $1 trillion fund, and you're sitting in a guy with institutional traders all over the place, and they're sharing openly with each other, you learn a lot of stuff. And the value of the education that sits inside my company is 10 times my knowledge. It's the knowledge, it's the combined knowledge of a lot of people who have worked together to create a program that's pretty inspirational. And so I think one thing that I always know when the opposition dudes are criticising us on social media, because they use the same expression for me every time. It's not very pleasant. And no one online ever attacks the quality of our product, because you just can't. The quality of our product is really good.
So that's probably a good acid test, I guess, is that if they're attacking you personally, then you obviously must be doing the right thing because they can't attack the process.
I can't find anyone I think who's ever worked with us who will say particularly. I mean, there's always no company has every client be happy and all the rest of it, but our people are pretty amazing, and we've created a team and a culture which is, I think, Nick, I spent 20 years coaching indoor cricket for New Zealand. I coached indoor cricket for Singapore. I coached netball for Denmark. So I've done a lot of time coaching sport in my life, and I've never seen a team as good as the trading team the team Fractions to Wealth. The traders and the operations people, they're just good people with good, clean endeavours. And I think, you asked how you survive and why you stay in an industry with a bad name like the one we've done. I think for me, the quality of the people around me inspires me to stay in the industry regardless of what anyone else thinks about it. They're just good people, and it encourages you to stay at it and keep doing well,
Mm-hmm. So your model was a seminar-based model where you would you'd run some previews and you'd fill a seminar room, and you'd have 2 or 3 days with sort of 300 or so people in the room, and they would learn enough there, and then you'd make your sales from there. So that's a reasonably traditional sort of seminar model. Yep. But things have changed recently. So with this COVID sort of thing. Yeah. So how have you dealt with that in your business?
Look, I think I should talk about one thing first, and that, Nick, is that the truth is that I've never run a preview. I've never advertised for clients. That we have a marketing company that has done all of that for us completely. So, in my business, I do what I'm good at, and largely that means that I run the trading team and I coach the clients, right? But a marketing company runs a preview and we go and speak at it. They rent a room and we go and speak at the room. Our people do the consultations, but they collect all the money and pay all the bills and pay us our share. And we do the stuff that we're good at and not the rest of the stuff, If I had to, at the size of Actions to Wealth, if I had to run a marketing team to do that, in all honesty, and this is one of the things, if I had to do that, I'd just trade for a living. I wouldn't do that stuff. It's just not my thing. So, it's other people have done it. And look, I really like that's terrible to say. COVID-19 is a crappy thing, and I hate it. But, it came along at a really good time for my business. We got to the point where we were growing so quickly that we couldn't service clients to the degree that I want to service them. And it gave us a real chance to sit back and look at the business and go, okay, well, look, COVID-19 is going to end. And when we do, we've got an amazing live model. It creates great traders, and it creates a great income stream for some people along the way. There's lots to like about it. But for now, we can park that. And there's 2 parts of the business. And, I think we asked ourselves what was the opportunity. And the first part of the opportunity for us was to get our operation systems to a more scalable level, which is why we found you, which is why we're having you, doing your website for us, doing your graduates area for us, do a forum for us, and create back-end systems to manage everything for us in a more automated way than the way we have been. So literally at this stage, my little operations manager, great man, my little operations manager, good guy, but he runs everything off spreadsheets. We've got Infusion software. He doesn't really know how to use it. So he just runs a spreadsheet for everything. And incredible. When you go and have a look at his stuff, it's amazing. But we can't scale from that spreadsheet, So we're spending a gap looking at how to make our business ready for the next step. And also as part of that, we've stepped away from some degree. I'm not quite sure what you're going to challenge, Evan, but you're welcome to tell me what that is, and I'll have a talk about it. So we've worked a lot on trying to make sure that the systems are better, so that when it's time to scale, we can scale easily. And we've also moved online and started an online program, and we do that partly with our same marketing company and partly stepping outside. Really, I'm looking to create a referral type model to take the business a bit more global. We're splattered all over the world, but I wouldn't mind being a bit more all over the world. So we've been developing.
Yeah, Erin's the Excel lady. She's a real expert at Excel, so she loves it.
Okay, you should meet James, because he's pretty good on it these days, But it just came to the point where, what I want, and it's always been the same for me. This is where I think we get back to the business stuff. I was really clear from the sports center days that there were 2 things I didn't want in my business. I didn't want stock and I didn't want staff. Those 2 things in business are really hard to deal with. We run a business model with myself, an operations manager, a head of mentorship, and somewhere around 20 traders. The traders are all contractors. They're not staff as such. They're all contractors. So I try and keep my employed staff very low. I try and be very efficient in what I do, and I want a lot more of my processes automated. And at the same time, I've got to do that inside a company where the culture is about we care about them, because we do care about them. So we're trying to automate the back end processes, but make sure there's enough contact and touch points to make sure they know that we're on the journey with them. And we're in the middle of starting to go through that process with you, Nick, and work that stuff. So we want the processes to be more efficient, but it's really important that we don't lose touch with our clients. And it's a tricky thing, because part of education, the way we do it, is that you've got to be really careful you don't make clients codependent. So you've got to teach them, and then you've got to push them away and let them walk. And then you've got to drag them back and teach them some more. You've got to push them away a little bit and let them walk. And so we've got to have systems that work smoothly and give us touch points. But we've also got to make sure they can't turn us into on-call help, because 20 years from now, they've got to be able to trade without me. So we've got to make sure we make independent people. Here's Tristan.
Awesome. So I'm just writing down some key points here, because there's some really good sort of key points in here in business. And one of the things you've just said now is what you don't want. And I wonder how many of us go into business thinking about what we do want in business without thinking about what are the things that we don't want in business, and eliminating those and making sure you build a business without those sort of things in it. And I was much the same as you, Paul. When I sold my business in New Zealand, came to Australia, I wanted no staff, I wanted no building, I wanted no overheads.
Yep.
Because they ended up sucking up a whole lot of money, and we made reasonable money out of it at the end of the day. But when you're spending sort of $500,000 on just overheads, and then you're still walking away with sort of like a couple of $100,000 as the money that you walk away with it. There's a lot easier ways to make that money without having to have all that. So, but that all comes down to sort of like when I came over here, it was just get rid of all that stuff and make that money without all of those overheads. So now I work from home, and we make that sort of we make more money now effectively in terms of profit than we were with a mortgage broking business with a team of 25, and my team's only 7 now. But I think what you point out is work out what is it you don't want, and that becomes part of your business.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to create what you're used to, and it's always the habit. I think I was thinking about what I was going to talk about when I've had very little time between my chat with Nick earlier on and coming on. I've had the kids tonight, but I think you do want to know what you don't want, and I think, look, for me, the greatest challenge in business is that I've only had a job twice in my life, and they were both for quite short periods of time, but I really loved it because I had a boss I could go and ask questions to. So if I didn't know something, I could go and ask him, and he could tell me what to do. Now, when you're in business, I think the hardest part is that you lack a mentor. I've got a trading mentor, not a business mentor. You're the person who has to answer all the questions, and there's not someone available to you. It's one of the things I really like, Nick. I really like these programs you do on a Tuesday night, because it gives business owners an opportunity to access some other resource, some other people that can help them with their problems. And I think for small business owners, this is a big thing. I think, not having that person above you is quite tough. And at the end of the day, you do have to decide what you do want and what you don't want, and get really clear about it and just make that happen.
Yeah. So I would imagine that it hasn't all been plain sailing for you.
Oh, there's been some periods that have been tough. We went through the Asian slowdown 4 or 5 years ago, and Facebook changed their algorithm, and there was a period there where my wife came back to New Zealand and I was still in Singapore, and business was tough. It really was. Anyone, that's been tough, and any year that I coach New Zealand indoor cricket, my business loses a 6-figure sum. It's guaranteed. It's one of the reasons that I haven't coached them for the last 2 years, is because I think it has to be unfair on my staff these days. So there have always been challenges, and I think that's like the COVID-19 thing. It's really easy just to throw your hands up in the air and go, oh, it's too hard, no one's going to spend any money. Or you can go, well, where's my opportunity? And I think business owners learn to ask where the opportunity is,
Yeah. So you've had, in terms of, say, let's say social media. Social media has been a part of you growing your business, and you've got some strategies in behind that you've used. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, look, I think it's quite ironic. And look, these days it's cut back a little bit, but I think a couple of years ago we had about 105,000 followers on Twitter and about 40,000 on Facebook. I think we're down to about 70,000 on Twitter now, and that's because we didn't post anything for nearly a year. But look, I think that, the social media thing for me, because I have a marketing company that sells me, social media for me was only ever about a brand and a little bit of a backstop. We've never used it to make any money. But I wanted to have a proper following. And look, I'll tell you guys exactly what I did, because in all honesty, getting 100,000 followers on Twitter, you can all do, and it's easy. It's not hard. Here's what you do. You find someone who's following you, and you have a look at what else he's following, and you find something similar, and you go and you follow 100 of their followers a day. And at the end of 2 weeks, anyone that hasn't followed you back, you unfollow. And you'll add, if you do 1,000 of those a week, you'll add 100 people a week. It really didn't take us long to get to 100,000 followers on Twitter. And look, in all honesty, I wish we'd been a bit more knowledgeable about how to engage that group, because all the people who followed us were people who were following other forex companies or financial services. Or look, we started off by going to our brokers and following their followers, and they'd follow us back. And what we found was that as we did that, the followers grew on Twitter, and they followed us on Twitter and then followed us on Facebook. And in those days, we went through a period where I felt that I didn't want to provide my own content for Facebook and Twitter. Then I really wanted to separate out my business and personal life. So I have Paul Bottrell Trading, which is my business Facebook page, and I have Paul Bottrell, which is my personal Facebook page. I think there's about 5 people on both, but really I keep them completely separate. So I wanted the business social media to be the business social media. And I didn't want to spend a lot of time on content, and I'm already a really big guy. So they were using my face on advertising and social media in Singapore a lot already. So I was already having a few problems where I couldn't go and have a beer anywhere without having someone want to come and talk to me about forex trading, which is really nice, apart from when I'm having a beer with friends. I don't want to talk about forex trading, So I didn't want to do a lot more of that stuff, So we wired up a generic system that just took content from other sites and ran it through our sites. So we copied about 5 sites to our social media sites. And at that stage, anything that was posted to our Facebook copied to our Twitter. And
just an automated process, was it?
Yeah. Look, to this day, I had a look before. If you gave me a quarter of an hour, I could tell you the name of the company that do it. But literally, I just went in and the name of the companies that we follow. I can't actually remember any of that right now. But what did happen to us, which is what did cause us some trouble, Facebook and Twitter undid the link. So there was a way previously where you could set anything you posted on Facebook to automatically follow Twitter. I don't think you can still do it. And they untied that link. So then all of a sudden we stopped putting content on Twitter, which is why, and we lost some people because of that. And I think that perhaps explains, I had 100,000 people following me on Twitter, and I didn't even know how to post to Twitter. I don't honestly understand what it is, It's just something that I thought we should have, so we pulled it up. But in my it's a great question. We'll come to that question, Trace. It's a great question.
So maybe there's some lessons there from Donald Trump.
Yeah, look, I think one of the things about Donald Trump, one thing that is different is, we put credible, positive stuff up there, and Donald Trump tweets for reaction. We don't tweet for reaction. We let stuff go, and we have done some stuff. Got some great comments, Kylie. Look, Kylie, I think, if you don't mind, Kylie, I know Kylie from outside of here. I know Kylie from growing up in New Zealand. Arguing the opposite of what I teach. So it's I get growing or following fast, but you're not growing authentic and engaged followers that way. And the truth is, Kylie, that I suggest to you that if social media is your way, that the answer lies, as always, in both approaches. That you can do what I'm doing and get a bunch of people who are interested, and then engage them, and they will engage with you. In all honesty, I don't know if you can create a commercial social media following, what I would call a commercial social media following, by engagement type activities only. I really have my doubts, Look, at one stage I rang Twitter and said, hey guys, I want to get some more Twitter followers. How much would it cost me to pay you guys to advertise on Twitter and get some more Twitter followers? And they looked at my account and said they'd never seen a Twitter account grow so quick. And they basically said, they wanted like $10,000 to give me like 1,000 followers. And I'm like, I pay this girl $4 to do this for me each day. It's not the way it works. And look, we're just getting back into using that kind of stuff. Look, I've got a question here, and I'm going to read it out again. I love the questions, so please keep the questions coming in. No other my kind. In fact, ironically enough, Kylie, I remember a conversation you and I had on Facebook a while ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, before you were doing this. And I know you're really good at what you do, but we were trying to work out why people hashtag things on Facebook. We didn't understand it at all. But we weren't great at this stuff. Someone's asking what sort of an investment did you have to make with a marketing company, and did they look after all your social media forums? I've never paid the. Great. Yes. Look, I've never paid the marketing company anything. They take a cut out of my income, and look, obviously for commercial reasons, I can't tell you what that cut is. This is going live onto Facebook, etc., and I can't discuss the details of that contract with them. I've never paid the marketing company for anything. They pay for the marketing, and they take a cut out of the money that they make. Did they look after your social media forums? No, look, they're very good at what they do. They're a company that, and again, I've never been good at marketing. They were very good at social media, getting people into rooms that we could talk to about forex trading, and we were really good at explaining what we did. And it was just a really good partnership. And look, if you're looking to become a global company, again, I want to be a bit careful what I say here. I don't think I'm going to cause anyone any issues, but I've got to be a little careful. My business partner, Roy, and Calvin, the owner of the marketing company, went to school together. So we had a bit of a head start in creating a relationship with them. They promote us, a very good business guy called Kane Minkus, who's an amazing business mentor, and their own online marketing stuff. And they only really, the three they focus on. We were very lucky to find them. And it's like all business relationships. It hasn't been easy or perfect, but it's been very good for both parties. And certainly, they put through, I'd say, certainly well into the millions of dollars worth of sales for us over the last few years. Can one invest without learning how to trade? You look up, you can. Again, you're right. Probably better to send me a message and I'll get back to you on that. I'm involved with a licensed fund in Singapore, but you have to be what's called an accredited investor, and you may be, you may not be, but we can put you in touch with some friends who do that kind of stuff for you without us being directly involved. As a director of a licensed fund, I can't be involved directly in trading people's money outside that fund, but I can put you on to some people who can help you.
All right. Any other sort of questions or aha moments from tonight? Has this been relevant for you, in terms of your business?
Look, so I need to see if I can correct you because I may have been unclear. Did you say your performance fee is 50% for a win? Also, given that trading is not as the certain personality is successful, even enjoy trading. Look, I'm happy to do some trading questions, but I'm really keen to do a lot of business things. But just to be clear, the marketing company, did I say 50% for a win? I don't think I have said anything about a win. If you work with us, clients take generally 2/3 of profits, about 67%. And again, we take 100% of the losses. And the split with the marketing company is really different than that. In my mind, I keep the marketing and the trading almost as they're one business, but I keep them as sort of as two separate things in my own mind.
I think that was probably more related. What you did say, Paul, was about the risk reversal side of things. That
Yep.
You give them a count and cover the losses. So, which is a pretty unique thing in any of the financial services world.
Yeah, great. Another question. And look, if this stuff isn't clear, please ask. So the question's about the 6 to 9 versus the 20 to 33%. If 100 people go to a seminar live, if you do your average business seminar and they sell a mentorship program in that seminar, out of 100 people, 6 to 9 will join the program. On the events that we run, 25 to 35 will join the program.
And what do you attribute that to?
Oh, look, I think it's a number of things. Where at times we do have one professional speaker who works with us. He trades as well. So we don't have anyone that doesn't trade. We've got one speaker who's very good, but we've got a really good product and we've got a really good guarantee. And look, really, and you've heard it, Nick, the bottom line for us is at the end of 2 hours, we say, invest this much money, you'll get an account with this much money, we'll pay your losses for life, we'll give you a money back guarantee if it doesn't work. If you're seriously interested in trading Forex, you're going to join. And there's always people in the room that are just there to have a look around, and good on them, that's no problem, right? That's fair. We didn't tell people at the start they can only sit in the seat if they were interested. But really, if you believe us, and that's, if people trust us, they sign up because the offer is too good. And that's half the people who don't sign up because it's too good to be true. You're welcome, no problems at all, Disney. We are using AMT4. Look, Karen, it's quite a detailed question about Forex trading, and I don't want to go, Kylie, it was nice to see you, take care. I don't want to get too much onto Forex trading, but I just want to say this as a general thing for you. It's my belief that anyone can do Forex trading, and that in truth, Forex trading is in fact, the act of Forex trading is the easy part. Being emotionally in control and continuing to do the right thing is the hard part. And that really, even some of those guys out there selling complete crap, if you did it properly, you'd probably be okay. You wouldn't make a lot of money, but you'd probably be okay. And the art of getting people to understand the difference between doing what they want to do versus what they should do, and doing what they should do consistently is what it's about. And it takes some time and some effort from both parties.
That sounds like a bit of a metaphor for business in general.
Yeah, look, I do think it's really similar, Nick. And I think you look at particular businesses. Everyone and their dog thinks they can run a pub, but a lot of pubs go broke. And Forex trading is a bit like that. I think everyone thinks they can do it, and the truth is that people can do it, but I think it does take a little bit of time and effort to become good at it. I think it's like anything else. People always say to me, can you make me a great trader in 3 days? It's like, well, can you teach me to your job in 3 days? I can teach you the basics of what we do. We can do a really good job of that, but it's going to take a little bit longer to really make you an expert in it,
Anyone got any questions? There's lots of trading questions sort of coming through here at the moment, which is good because it's piqued your interest in terms of that. And I'd have to say, if you are interested in learning a bit more about trading, it's well worth going to spending a day with Paul and his team. He runs online. So I think you're running one this week. I'm not sure whether it's a public one or not, but he runs them, and they're very good. Like I sat in on it because we're working with Paul on his web properties. And I would have to say that it was a fascinating program in that I couldn't stop but be involved. I sort of had one eye on what was happening with the technology side of things, the other eye on sort of actually what's happening in the trading sort of things, and I learned a whole lot about it. And I thought, geez, you know what, this is not what I thought it was. So I would have to say, if you're curious about learning about trading, worth actually just going along and spending a day sort of on one of the programs that is when it's available, when they're running it.
Look, I think it's one of the things that marketing isn't everyone's cup of tea, and I think finding the right people to help you with it's really important. And we're using Nick to help us to market some stuff in Australia at the moment, and trying to use some affiliate stuff. And I think you've got to find your own way. But I've got to say that not everyone can just run off to the marketing company we use in Singapore. They are also very selective about the companies they deal with, and they these days tend to deal with bigger companies with decent record.
So I love the comment about hardest things managing your emotions. So yes, that's.
Sorry, Nick. Yeah, I remember saying to my team about 6 months ago that all we had to do for the next 2 years was keep our S together. If we could just stay calm and do things well, if we could trade the way we were trading, and we were going through, and we have been going through an amazing spell. Our guys are brilliant, and they trade. If we could just keep trading the way we were trading, if we could speak the way we were speaking, teach the way we were teaching, if we could just stay calm and execute for 2 years, that we would all be in an even better place in the world. That things were just, we were, and I think sometimes it's really hard. It sounds so simple, right? All we've got to do is stay the same for 2 years, keep being genuine, keep providing great service, and everything will work out. And it sounds so easy, but it's so easy to do yourself in mentally and make mistakes and get ahead of yourself. And you don't you don't plan for COVID to turn up and change the whole world you live in, But I think for many people in business, it really, part of it is about just staying calm and getting through it, and you'll come out the other side and you'll be okay.
And the reality is that the winds of change happen all the time. We just happen to be in a fairly large one or a significant one at the moment. The last one that I came through was the GFC, global financial crisis. I think in industries as well, industries have had their crises in industry as well, which doesn't affect everybody else, but it affects you in your industry. I remember when we were in the mortgage broking industry, there were things that were specific to that industry that happened when we're in it. Like one of the things about mortgage broking is you get trail commissions. When you introduce loans, and then in New Zealand they cut out all the trails. So for us, that was all the money that we had for our overheads and running our operation, just gone overnight. So we had to think of some other ways to do it. So there's always sort of change that comes through, and it really is. It's not about the fact that these things happen, but it's about how do you respond to it, and how do you see it as an opportunity, which I think is what you said, Paul. Is where's the opportunity in it as opposed to where's the problem in it.
Yeah, I'd like to, for the people in Australia, I don't really quite understand where you guys are with COVID. It seems a bit weird. From over here, it seems a bit weird over here. I don't mean that in a rude way. I just don't really follow it. But here's what I can tell you is that, I've got some friends in some different industries around New Zealand. I saw a few of them. I was away for the weekend in Auckland catching up with friends. And, I'm being told that major retail stores in New Zealand have turned over more money this year than at this time last year. That we've come out of COVID and we've just put our hands in our pockets and started spending. And that I went to a rugby game on the weekend in Hamilton with 20,000, maybe 18,000 people would have been there. Last year, that would have been 5,000 people there. And as we've come out of COVID, there's the pent-up spending from the stuff you couldn't do, but there's people who are just like, they just want to do things and they won't do anything. And what's coming for business, I think it's probably only a 2 or 3 month window, but as you come out, the spending is amazing. I think there's some really good opportunities in the next 2 or 3 months to make a lot of money.
And it's interesting over there because you've got no lockdown door. You're totally free over there, aren't you? Apart from people coming and going from the country.
Yes, yes, they think they're free, but they're not.
Yeah. But whereas over here, we've got some of our states are starting to open their borders. I think Queensland opened their border just recently. But then you've got Victoria, who are sort of looking at locking things back down again and turning apartment blocks into prisons. So, yeah.
It's going to be interesting. I'm certainly hoping that they settle things down enough that we'll get our Trans-Tasman bubble going with at least Queensland and New South Wales in the next few months.
Well, the other interesting thing that's happening over here too, and I'm not sure whether I know there are some beneficiaries of it, is that currently we've got this thing called JobKeeper, which means that so people that are not working, that are still employed, get paid $750 a week for staying at home. So, and I know that my son works in a brewery sort of cafe, and he's part time. So he works 3 days a week. So he's off for a while, but he's working 3 days a week. But he still gets $750 a week. And so for him, for the retailers there, great for them, because he's out buying these sort of these expensive shoes, hoodies, hats, clothes, all this sort of stuff, that he couldn't afford before, and I wouldn't give him the money for it to go and buy it. He's just going to town with the whole thing. And I said to him, it might be a good idea to sort of start thinking about sort of, investing, saving, putting some of these things, putting some money aside, because this is going to end at some point. And he said, I've just got a few other things to get, which basically means I've still got $750 a week to spend until I finish spending it. So I think you're right. It's like, I spoke to someone the other day, and his comment was that it's really hard in business because no one's spending any money. And I asked him, I said, so how do you know this? Is this just what you've been told, or what you believe, or is it fact? And so I had to really sort of think about that. And so this is someone on the coast here that was, just getting into business.
Yeah, and I think there's, it's one of the things about being in business, isn't it? Again, one of the things that's most amusing in business is that everybody always has an opinion on everything to do with your business, and everyone's certainly got an opinion on business. And the truth is that, to a fair degree, the stuff that they're talking about, my belief and their belief are completely opposite. And you can't do anything about either of them. All you can do is get out there and run your business well and see where it goes. And I personally think that there is a time coming where life will get a bit tougher. I think when the benefits stop and some people lose their jobs, we're going to see a tough time. But at least the amount of money being spent right now is creating buffers for businesses to hold on. I think that's a really positive thing. But again, I sort of look at that stuff and go, well, actually, I can't control that. I just need to run my business and do a really good job, and we'll get the best result we can. You know?
Well, that's been a good evening. Is there? I'd be really interested in. What's your biggest takeaway from tonight? There's been a whole lot of one-liners and gems that have come through here. I've got a whole page that I've just been writing up what Paul's been speaking about. Just pop into chat there. What's been your biggest takeaway from tonight? And I've got a few here as well too. I'll just read out some of them that I've got that I thought are sort of quite pertinent. One is setting your what would you call it? Your what you want in business. So Paul talked about his one was having no stock and no staff. So what is your business not? So defining what your business isn't, and then you can work out what your business is. The other was risk reversal. So working out what your competitors are doing and where their weaknesses are, and guarantee against their weaknesses, so that you can offer exactly what people are after, and your competitors can't compete on it. Creating a good culture in the business, so a team that actually believes in the product, and not just turning up day to day to go to the job, but honestly really believe in it because they're using the product. Processes, so that the difference between having good processes yet keeping that personal connection with all of your clients and customers. One of the big ones was just doing what you're good at. I think so many times in business we do everything in business, but just focus on the things that you're good at. Pay other people to do the things that you're not good at. And I think you said a couple of times, Paul, but I think it's important too that you've got mentors and coaches. How many people here have mentors and coaches to help you? So I've got 3 at the moment, and it doesn't stop just one, but 3 for different purposes. And emotions. So that whole thing about keeping your emotionality in control. So businesses. Part of it is actually knowing what to do. The other part of it is just controlling what's happening sort of emotionally and mentally. So those were some of my takeaways. So any takeaways there for everyone? In fact, what we can do is let's just open up the mic there. If you've got any questions or any takeaways there, just open up the mic and let's just tell us.
Paul, thank you. Okay, sorry, I don't have my video at the moment. Well, thank you for that. A lot of great takeaways, actually. And one of the things I also liked is, to go onto social media, have a look who is following the people who do something similar to yourself, and then to follow them, and then obviously a week or 2 to unfollow them if they're not following you. Because it's another way of building up a really good targeted potential clientele as well. I know people who do a lot of stuff in regards to that on their business, on their Facebook profile, but I think your way works a lot better because it's a lot more targeted.
Cheers, Debbie. Thank you.
No, thank you.
All right. Someone asked, Desi asked, is the recording, will it be available? It was live streamed to Facebook tonight. So if you go to the Business Owners Smashing It Online Facebook page, if you're not a member, go and join it, and it'll be there for posterity.
Marlon, you talk about mentors, and I think having the right people around you is hugely important. And I'm really lucky because I run a team where there's a bunch of people who are completely financially independent, so they don't rely on me for anything. So they've got no agenda in this apart from to tell me what they think honestly. It's a great place to be. If you were looking at a mentor and they wouldn't sit down with you for an hour and explain their services and go through what they're good at, then personally I probably wouldn't be interested in having a discussion with them. So I think you're right that you can go a long way down the mentorship pathway and find you've got the wrong guy. But I think what you need to do is ask some questions at the start and make sure you try and get the right guy. And I think part of that again is to get really clear. I'll never, it's like your staff. For me, I'm never going to employ someone who's a create business dude. I'll run out and create the business. What I employ is the people behind me who tidy it all up and make it all work, because I'm really bad at execution and they're really good at execution. So I think you've got to be careful that you don't find a mentor, first of all, that's the same as you. because he's got limited value to you if he's the same as you. You want to find a mentor who's got some differences to you. And I think you do want to, if a mentor wouldn't give you a talk before you sign the line with them, I think that's probably not a great mentor, you know?
All right, well, I think that brings us up to time for tonight. So great presentation, well, great discussion, I think, tonight. And thanks for offering and stepping up tonight. It certainly was well worthwhile, and there were some good sort of lessons in there for all of us, I think.
Cheers, Nick. Thank you very much. Absolute pleasure. Really enjoyed it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the questions. Much appreciated.
Excellent. All right, well, look, just to let you know that tomorrow we have office hours on at 10 o'clock. So we run that on Zoom. Office hours is no agenda, sort of chat about anything to do with online marketing, websites, maybe sort of something that comes out from tonight's discussion as well too. I don't bring a presentation, no one brings a presentation. It's just an opportunity to have a coffee and a chat and hopefully share some wisdom and ideas. So that's at 10:30 tomorrow morning. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, Australian Eastern Standard Time. That link is now in chat, so you can just go and click on that and register if you want to come along to that. And apart from that, a couple of things is I would say that if you haven't seen the video of the Netflix series called Rostered On, go and watch it. So it's a Victorian series. A chap from Melbourne was a director of it, and basically did it with no money, and ended up posting some funny clips up on social media. Ended up being picked up by Netflix and by Channel 7. So I've been chatting with him today, the director of that today, and hoping to get him on here to talk about his process and strategy and how all that played out for him as well too. But go and watch the series. It's well worth watching. It's set in a retail store like Harvey Norman's or Dick Smith's or whatever, and it's really just about the funny interactions between customers and staff. So fingers crossed that we'll get him on board for that too in the next few weeks. But other than that, we'll be here again next week at 6 o'clock again for Business Owners Smashing It Online again. Sophia, who was going to be here tonight that couldn't make it, she will be back. So she's just waiting to get the what's going on for her at the moment sort of sorted out, which should be in the next week or two, and she'll be back to present. So it's well coming back to listen to her as well too. So once again, thanks Paul for sharing with us tonight, and thanks everyone for coming along. And again tonight, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you all again next week.
Cheers, Nick, and thanks everybody. See you guys later. Good luck with your businesses.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Business Owners Smashing It Online podcast. You can also find me on social media and online. Just search for Business Owners Smashing It Online and Nick Cree, spelled Nickcree, all one word. If you like this and want to hear more, subscribe now. Until next time, don't be a slave to your business. Get your business working for you.